Yo, man. So as y'all know, if you've been here before, and y'all can see, I got the little night vision type feel in here tonight, man. Because, well, first of all, it is dark outside. Second of all, I bought this light, so I'm gonna use it at some point in time. It kind of sets like a, I don't know. At least for me, it sets a feel. I don't know. Let me know how y'all feel about it. I fuck with it. But anyway, it's 10 saddest WWE wrestler downfalls. You know what I mean? Uh, Wrestlers have a hard climb up as it is. Just the long hours for a lot of times no pay, you know what I mean, or very little pay. So, and, it's such a physical sport anyway. These guys train and build up a callus to some extent, doing these stunts and all of that. But, a lot of broken bones, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, right? And, when you throw all these different types of elements, ladders, and that's more of like the professional level, ladders, chairs, thumbtacks, things of that nature. That hardcore kind of entity, when you combine that with the so physical aspect of the sport, the slams, the coming off the top rope and missing your opponents, even hitting opponents, collisions, botches. You know what I mean? There's a whole lot of things you're trying to avoid, as well as you're trying to avoid a mistake or a quote unquote downfall. You know what I mean? Like, you're always dodging potholes in the wrestling game. And not only that, you're trying to create a character and, create rapport with fans and sell merchandise. And there's a lot that goes into it. And, some wrestlers find their groove, a la The Rock, a la Stone Cold Steve Austin. And some wrestlers, find a groove as well, but don't get as quote unquote as high. I think wrestlers kind of view the business more of what's best for the business, which I feel is the mindset you must have if you're going to be a wrestler, because there's a hard job in wrestling, and that's the job itself. So not everybody gets over. So when you're talking about downfalls, these are guys that have put in the hours, but just didn't have the oomph or the star power to really make the move, or had the star power and their time just came where people didn't really get to have their eyes on it. People within the industry knew how talented you are, know how talented you are. Wrestlers I think of, maybe like a Sabu or any, we could pick almost any of those ECW guys, or even like over in Japan, or the lower circuit. Like, there's a lot of circuits in wrestling. Like, even a circuit I'm with now, the UCW guys. Like, these guys are on the rise. You know what I'm saying? And really, where I'm going with that is when you talk about downfalls, it's a shame, because again, not everybody can get over, but it takes a humility to be on the opposite side of great rises. You know what I'm saying? For every Rock, there was a D'Lo, or there was a Mark Henry. You know what I'm saying? Which they they both had their credit, but were they on a Rock level? And I wouldn't even say they had downfalls per se. But for every, we could say, I don't know, who's a jobber, like the Goon. You know what I mean? Like, for every Rock, there's a Goon, and it's it's just interesting. It's just interesting. I'm kind of getting long winded. But this is a topic that I think we as fans kind of view it differently than wrestlers. Like, I know there's a match, and I will play the video, trust that. But there's a match that's very controversial within wrestling history, and I wouldn't call this necessarily a downfall, but it's things like this that could cause a downfall. One that sticks out, first let me get it out of the way if I want to jump to another topic, was Booker T versus Triple H, WrestleMania, I believe it's 19, right? And Booker even pulled out the Harlem Hangover for that match, which he hadn't done, and I don't know how long up to till that point. And this is a title match, and it's not what you do, but it's kind of like how it was done. Like, he gets screwed over. He hits all his finishers, and then they screw him multiple times before the pin. There's like a 2-minute pause before Triple H even pins him after the final spot, and it's just as a viewer, you're like, damn, they did Booker like that. You know what I'm saying? Like this, I thought he was going to go over. Especially with how the storyline was played out. The racism they kind of put in it. Your people should hold the title. You're just here to entertain. Blah 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 blah. And it's just like, yeah, whatever. But that's why I guess we as fans were invested, because you're like, he's going to talk all this stuff, and then Booker's going to get over. But then he doesn't, right? And it's like it leaves a sour taste in your mouth. You know what I mean? And it's not Booker did have, I'm not going to talk about Booker like he's a downfall. He's very accomplished within wrestling, but it's times like that make it hard for some wrestlers to continue or give their full effort because they feel they've been done wrong in some type of way. But with all that said, I apologize, fellas. I get passionate sometimes, and hopefully what I'm saying is interesting to you, because it's definitely interesting to me. Let's get into this video and check out the 10 saddest WWE wrestler downfalls. I'm interested to see this list, to see what names pop up.
WWE have notoriously been known to give up on a chosen wrestler relatively quickly. This can happen in several ways. Either the wrestler debuts with a red-hot presentation, but rather quickly, WWE diminishes their star power and they fall dramatically down the card. On other occasions, WWE gives a wrestler the push of a lifetime into the main event picture, yet for various reasons, this push ends up flopping. So WWE decides to cancel the push with immediate effect, and that wrestler never sees the main event scene ever again. Join us now as WrestleLamia looks at 10 of the quickest wrestler downfalls in WWE history. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Also check out our new channel, WrestleLamia Shorts. Number 10, Scott Steiner. Former WCW World Champion Scott Steiner made his return to WWE at the 2002 Survivor Series event. He received a thunderous ovation from the audience, and it was evident that the fans wanted to see Steiner be a huge deal in WWE. Steiner would be signed to the Raw brand, and he would be booked in a world title feud with Triple H. This feud was designed to cement Steiner as a top babyface on the Red brand, but it was clear based on Steiner's match with Triple H at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view that Steiner didn't have the ability he once had. Steiner's match with the Game was atrocious, and the rematch at the No Way Out pay-per-view wasn't much better. The in-ring work of Steiner was so bad that fans audibly turned on him, and WWE had no choice but to abandon their push of Steiner completely. Steiner was initially set to feature in WWE's WrestleMania 19 plans, but due to his lackluster performances, he didn't even make the match card. Following WrestleMania 19, Steiner would have lower card feuds with the likes of Test before his eventual release in 2004. Number 9,
Before I forget to turn my mic on. And see, that's one of those instances I'm talking about. Scott Steiner was pretty accomplished up until that point. Obviously, with the Steiner brothers, went all through WCW. He had worked a long time even before that point, right? And it's unfortunate because that's the issue, because you work so hard and you can't always appeal to every era, right? Like you can't appeal to every time period. Like people in the 80s, people in the 90s, they got a true Scott Steiner. You know what I'm saying? Like he wouldn't have had problems getting over, quote, if he was, big Papa Pump at that point in time due to his just ability in the ring. It was obvious, right? And he had worked so long up to that point. It's things like fatigue and, accepting you're not as proficient as you might have been in a former state. And this is what causes these quote unquote downfalls. It's like an old NBA player. Like you can't give people 40 forever. You know what I mean? You can't give people 35 forever. Like it's just unrealistic to expect that. So it's unfortunate when it comes at a time that at that period in wrestling, it was, it's on an all-time high. You just had the merger with ECW, WCW, WWE, and people wanted to see these stars collide, and Triple H versus Scott Steiner on paper looks like a dream match, right? So why not try to run it? So when you don't get the performance that you're expecting, it's always hard. It's always hard to witness that, and you know, I don't like calling it a downfall. I hate to refer to it as a downfall per se. I guess it's just, you know, his time was up. Time ran out, man. Time ran out.
Dean Malenko and Perry Saturn. The debut of the Radicals was one of the most memorable moments of the Attitude Era. Yet, whilst the initial debut was special, it appeared that WWE only had major plans for two of the four members of the faction. Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit would go on to become main event talents in WWE. However, when it came to Dean Malenko and Perry Saturn, their star quickly faded in WWE. At first, in relation to Malenko, he would be relegated to compete in the light heavyweight title division, and whilst he was an unbelievable wrestler, he was never going to ascend past the lower mid-card. Saturn had more...
How sad is this, though? You see who has him in the Texas Cloverleaf right here, right?
Unbelievable wrestler, he was never going to ascend past...
That is China. Got Dean Malenko in a Texas Clover hold. And I get it, man. Like, obviously, this is sports entertainment, quote unquote. But it's a shame that Dean Malenko has to go in and submit to this because of a paycheck. Let's be real. But come on, man. Dean Malenko, it will not let you do anything if y'all are truly wrestling. Like, he truly got 1,000 holes. Like, yeah, I just had to point that out, man. It's not always the wrestler's fault. Like, I can't say Dean Malenko couldn't wrestle right here, right? But the card he's handed, he wasn't the most charismatic guy. I did kind of feel that storyline with he was kind of like side playing, like, or being like a little player or whatever. I thought that was just funny because, you know, he's so serious. Let's loosen him up with, you know, with broads. But, yeah, just, you know, sometimes you just get a filthy card. And some people make this work, though. Like, Chris Jericho makes something like this work. I don't know why. I think he just gives, you know, that extra effort. I mean, obviously, he's more charismatic than Dean Malenko, probably a lot more likable than Dean Malenko, just from a fan's view. But, yeah, I'll digress.
Past the lower mid-card. Saturn had more success as an in-ring talent as he would win the European title, but he was soon given a novelty gimmick where he was in love with a mop, which was indication that Saturn was never going to surpass the role of a comedic lower mid-carder. Number 8. Chris Masters. From the moment Chris Masters debuted in WWE back in 2005, it was apparent that WWE had high hopes for him. Masters had a fantastic presentation, and the Master Lock finishing move was one of the most protected moves in all of WWE. Unfortunately, whilst Masters was initially being pushed up the card, something changed as WWE entered 2006 and seemed to lose faith in Masters out of nowhere. He would go from feuding with John Cena over the WWE title to being a prominent fixture in the lower mid-card. Masters had a ton of personal demons at the time, and this is likely a factor in WWE giving up on the once promising star. He would end up being released by WWE, but all hope wasn't lost for the Masterpiece as they eventually decided to re-sign him in 2011. Masters worked endlessly to get better in the ring, yet sadly it wasn't enough for WWE to move Masters into the main event picture once again, and in 2011 he'd be released from his WWE contract for the second time. Number 7.
Enzo and Cass is an interesting story, but because I didn't expect their fallout for real. But going back to this real quick, Chris Masters. This is a guy I think the wrestling world is kind of, at least in WWE, it's like kind of full of the guys like this, right? Like, look good, you know what I'm saying? Got a solid moveset. It's just like something's missing though. Like, I'm just not buying it. Like, and I think I was reading some comments the other day, I think in just a little YouTube tab or whatever, you know how that go. And they was talking about, I can't remember, you know, obviously I don't remember who said this, but it just kind of hit a note with me. And it was talking about, you know, wrestlers nowadays don't really get the acting part. You know what I mean? And you know, you have some wrestlers that make that transition to acting, you know what I mean? Because they're just so believable as a character. And I think a lot of wrestlers nowadays have a character, but they don't have an identity. And it's like, yeah, you know what I mean? We get what you want to do, but do you even believe it, bro? You know what I'm saying? And Chris Masters is an odd case because, again, he had it all, but just like mic skills, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, we get it, you're big, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's about as far as it goes. Like, and these are the critiques and the niches of wrestling, because you got a guy like Chris Masters, you think, oh man, this guy's getting over, he's money. But then you got a guy like Mick Foley, you know what I mean, who looks nothing like Chris Masters, but gets the craft. You know what I'm saying? Like, has 3 characters, and not only are they characters, they're all unique identities. Like, when he is Cactus Jack, you believe it. When he's Mankind, you believe it. When he's Dude Love, you believe it. And that's what we're looking for. And it's like, these guys don't have the charisma, or I'm not gonna say these guys, but certain wrestlers don't have the charisma. Certain wrestlers just don't get the what's the word I'm looking for? The theater of wrestling, because it's truly an art. It's an art to wrestle. You know what I'm saying? It's not just big spots, bro. It's not just big spots. So yeah, let's continue.
And in 2011,
hold on, I'll skip. We don't watch that. We'll check out Enzo and Cass.
When the duo received a call-up in 2016, it seemed like a certainty that the two would be presented well, as they were hot merchandise movers, and it made logical business sense to push them to the top of the tag division. The debut of the duo on the main event roster was fantastic, as they would debut on the night after WrestleMania 32, which was a smart move, as the hardcore audience in the attendance made the two look like megastars. Their first pay-per-view match as a duo on the main roster was when things began to go wrong, as at the Payback pay-per-view, Amore suffered a legitimate concussion. When Amore eventually returned, the hype that the two had in the weeks following their debut had completely gone. Admittedly, they would have some bright spots as a team, including teaming with John Cena at the Battleground pay-per-view, but WWE had no interest in giving the duo the tag titles. In 2017, they would implement plans to split the duo up, which was a heavily criticized decision. Amore would be moved into the Cruiserweight division, whilst Cass would start a heel run as a mid-carder. These two respective singles runs signaled the beginning of the end of their WWE tenures, and it was a massive shame that WWE pulled the plug on the duo so soon. Number 6, Vladimir Kozlov. WWE were rather stubborn in coming to the realization that Vladimir Kozlov wasn't going to be a main eventer. Throughout 2008 and into 2009, Kozlov would be booked as an unstoppable force, but his lack of presence in the ring was enough to send fans to sleep. Kozlov had some terrible matches with the likes of Triple H and Jeff Hardy, but even these didn't stop WWE from trying to make Kozlov the next big deal in the company. At one stage, they were discussing booking Kozlov to take on The Undertaker at WrestleMania 25, and in one of the biggest upsets in history, Kozlov would even defeat The Undertaker on an episode of SmackDown. Thankfully, in April of 2009, Kozlov would be drafted to the ECW brand, and this was a sign that they had lost faith in the Moscow Mauler. They eventually decided to turn Kozlov into a comedic act, and he would join forces with Santino Marella. This was the most memorable and entertaining arc of Kozlov's WWE tenure, although it was a far cry from his days going toe-to-toe with Triple H and The Undertaker. Number 5, Alex Wright.
We gotta speak on that, because Kozlov is an interesting case. I feel if they started where they went, you would have had a better success. And I don't say that to say he should have came in a goofball, but he was at least more interesting. Like, he comes in, not everybody can do that Stone Cold Steve Austin thing, black trunks and tight, or black trunks and boots, right? Like, some people need that little flair, you know what I'm saying? Like, Shawn Michaels doesn't come in just some boots and tights, you know what I'm saying? Triple H kind of does, but he has presence, you know what I'm saying? Triple H creates an aura when he enters the ring. As much as I hate to even say that, because I hated Triple H, but he's got one of the dopest entrances, you know, wrestling's ever seen. So, and he's got that whole biker thing going, like when he's not in the ring, black trunks and boots, he was normally rocking like the blue jean jacket. He got like the black leather Kangol on, you know what I'm saying, or the biker cap, whatever it was. Like, I think it was a Kangol, it looked like Kangol, and the blue jeans. Like, he just was the character through and through. Like, and when you get a guy like Kozlov, what do you see him out of the ring in? Like, And does he wear that green beret stuff or whatever that was, like, all the time? Like that Russian military attire all the time? Like, are you Sergeant Slaughter? You see what I'm saying? Let's get it.
Riley. Alex Riley's popularity when he turned on The Miz in 2011 can never be denied. Riley was one of the most popular talents on the entire roster, and when he defeated The Miz at the Capital Punishment event, it looked set that Riley was moved into the main event picture. However, in the months that followed, his push would come to a complete end as he would begin to lose every match, and before fans knew it, he had a 12-match losing streak. He would be moved to the NXT brand to become a commentator, and Riley was eventually released in 2016, putting an end to a disappointing and frustrating WWE career. It's believed that backstage politics was a major factor in Riley losing his push, but to see someone lose their push this quickly was truly unprecedented. Number 4, Diamond Dallas Page. Even though Diamond Dallas Page's initial storyline in WWE was met with disdain from fans, at least he was working with WWE's top stars in The Undertaker. When this infamous feud came to an end, they were convinced that DDP wasn't a top-level talent and he would be moved to the lower mid-card. He would become European champion, and this was a stark contrast to what fans expected DDP to achieve when he signed for WWE in 2001. He had all the talent in the world, and the WWE audience would have truly resonated with him if they had just utilized him like the star he happened to be. Number 3, Sanity.
And this is one of those I can't even blame the wrestler moments, because DDP, I think he's a superstar that honestly just jumps off the page. Like, he's a very unique talent due to his story, and his charisma is very, very energetic and bright. So when they turned him heel, I get the conflict. Now, again, he made a great point. He was working with big wrestlers, right? The Undertaker, like DDP versus The Undertaker. Whoa, that's dope. But it's unfortunate because the storyline wasn't really that enticing. Like, it made him out to really be a creep, which could have been like, you know, Vince McMahon, like, we all know, like, he's been known to create storylines that go over the top, to say the least, like, in many aspects of the word. And I think DDP just got the bad hand when the cards were dealt, you know what I'm saying, with that. And you can't always blame the wrestler. I don't think performance was necessarily, you know, what killed DDP. Like, yeah, and because there's got to be, you know what I mean, like, WCW is your competition, and, you know, there's been some people say, I have no idea, right? I'm nowhere close to it. But, you know, there's been talks and rumors of, you know, those WCW guys, ECW guys didn't get a true shot when the merger happened, which I could definitely see that being the case. And it's unfortunate that you get guys with such talent as DDP that get the blunt end of the stick. But we'll see what they're talking about with Sanity. Who the fuck is Sanity?
One of the standout factions of the black and gold era of NXT was Sanity. The stable led by Eric Young was unique, and each member of the group offered something special. The group would debut on SmackDown in 2018, albeit without Nikki Cross, and the group would be thrown into a high-profile feud with the New Day. This culminated in Sanity picking up a huge win over the talented trio at the Extreme Rules pay-per-view. Following the pay-per-view win, the stable was completely absent from television for the remainder of the year with seemingly no explanation. They'd completely given up on the talented trio, and when they resurfaced in April of 2019, this was to lose a 3-on-1 handicap match to The Miz, officially destroying any credibility the stable had left. Number 2,
Taz is another one that just kind of went too long before he gets into that. But these guys, there's a specific part right here. Something I'm trying to point out. These guys all have the same look. You know what I'm saying? The same aura, more or less the same pose. You know what I mean? And I get it. They're a faction. They should be unified. But no, this is where I put my foot down. All right, a simple look over to The Miz, and I'm not a big Miz fan. I'm not about to give Miz a push. But he's got his own vibe going over here, right? Like, if he was standing next to these guys, obviously he's not trying to be them, but he's his own At least he's got his own flair. He's got the little headband. He's not doing the I'm going to kill you because I'm crazy look. He's got the I'm cool, calm, collected look, right? I need to bring up the photo with DX, man, because they do it very well. I'll do that a little bit later, hopefully. But if you look at a DX photo, I might put one in this thing. If you look at a DX photo, all those guys, they're all wearing DX attire, yes. You know what I'm saying? They're all synchronized more or less in color. But their attitudes are so different from one to the next. You know what I'm saying? These guys are all being the same guy right here. Right here. I've never watched these guys wrestle, and I've never seen them give a promo. But these guys are all doing the same thing right here. And that's not good. I think if you're in a faction, it's just as important to be yourself as it is to be a unit. The Nation, another great example. Mark Henry, the strong guy. D'Lo, the trash talker, side charisma dude. Godfather, another charisma dude, but he's a pimp. He's got hoes all the time. The Rock, the leader, but obviously the most charismatic out of the bunch. If you put them all next to each other, they're not all giving the same look. Yes, they all give the same fist, but D'Lo shakes the head, Godfather pimp walks, The Rock struts more or less, and Big Mark Henry just waddles. You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. Like, they got identity. And these guys, from what I've seen in these short little clips, look at you mean and beat you down. That's all they do. They don't have any character in between all that. Like, after DX was done, like, they was going to WCW with a tank, man. Like, and I can't, judge these guys for that. Obviously there was competition relevant, but you know what I mean? Like, and AEW I guess could be competition, but that's besides the point. Point is, you got to be yourself as much as you're being a group, because that's what makes you stand out. And these guys, they're too much of a group. You know what I mean? That's my critique. Tell me if you disagree. I feel that's a key point that I have to get across, because again, even if Miz has somebody next to him right here, for them to look exactly like the Miz, it's going to be way too obvious. You know what I'm saying? The APA, this is a faction, but they're a two-man faction. If you're going to do this, I think two men is better than one man, because I don't know, like, there's just something with that. Like, but even the APA, like, Bradshaw's not Farouk. You know what I mean? Even, I think if you wanted to go like this route right here, if you wanted to go this route right here, the best to have ever did it might have been DOA or LOD. My fault, LOD, Legion of Doom, and they're both come in, shoulder pads. We're mean, we're tough. We're gonna hoist this guy. Match is over. But even that ran so long because they had problems recreating it. So you had LOD 2000. That could have been a downfall placed on this list due to Hawk. So, this is just a point I feel I should put out there. If you're into wrestling or something and you're trying to create a faction, like, do each other for sure. Like, synchronize, but be y'all. Like, I don't know. Like, this just really, like, hit me for some reason. I just had to put my perspective on that.
It was a 3-on-1 handicap match to The Miz, officially destroying any credibility the stable had left. Number 2, Taz. In terms of memorable WWE debuts, the debut of Taz at the 2000 Rumble was the picture-perfect introduction to the human suplex machine. Taz would debut at Madison Square Garden and defeat Kurt Angle, and he looked like a legitimate star who was going to be a big deal in the company. Unfortunately, just a few weeks after this incredible debut, Taz's WWE career would rapidly decline, and at WrestleMania 16 he was featured in a Hardcore Battle Royal, a match he wasn't even booked to win. Taz would then struggle to find a place on the card, and WWE had the bizarre idea to have him feud with Jerry Lawler in the summer of 2000, which did little to help Taz's stature in the company. By the start of 2001, Taz was virtually an enhancement talent in WWE, and this would be on full display in the Royal Rumble match. Taz would last just 10 seconds before being eliminated thanks to a punch from Kane. His music hadn't even finished when he was eliminated. His star power and worth in the company had plummeted, and it wasn't before long that Taz would become semi-retired and would begin to take his commentary duties much more seriously. And number 1, Kofi Kingston.
Yeah, Taz, man, like, that's unfortunate for Taz. But again, another one of those guys who got dealt bad cards. But I feel it's always a two-way street. You can accept the deal or not take the. You can accept the deal or not take the deal, right? And I think some wrestlers, as hard nosed as Vince is, always just take the deal. I don't know if that's Taz. I don't want to speak on his situation, but I'm just talking generally. Like, it's as a talent who's been on the rise for so long, dude, you got to truly know your worth to get a spot that's worth doing, right? And as unfortunate as it is, WWE has to ultimately believe the worth that you do, but when you take whatever they hand you and don't give them any pushback, it's like you're kind of like accepting your fate. Like Stone Cold, as over as he was, like Vince will tell. Vince will tell you himself. I'm sure Stone Cold will tell you himself. He gave those guys pushback. You know what I mean? Like the Brock Lesnar thing. Like they spotted him the job to Brock. He didn't take that. He was like, "Nah, dog, y'all trying to kill my character." You know what I'm saying? So the streak, like, I don't, I don't know how much pushback there was on the streak, but apparently Undertaker was cool with it. That's what we're sold. That's what we're told to believe. But I find that hard to imagine. But Undertaker is a guy that's about the business, so in ways I don't find it hard to imagine. It's just crazy, man, because Taz is a guy that sells merch. Taz is a guy that had an identity. He had a moveset. I mean, they were calling the suplex the Tazplex, which I always love that. And that's all I'm trying to say, man. Sometimes I'm not saying it was Taz, but it's hard for me to believe sometimes that you get dealt these hands and don't have nothing to say about it. You know what I mean? Like, we're just gonna do it. Like, and again, you got to be about the business if you're gonna be a wrestler. But some of these guys deserve better payouts. Another guy they could have put on this list, D'Lo Brown. My guy D'Lo obviously had a rise, but the way they jobbed him out, man, it was just disrespectful. And I think that's, as much as these guys create brands for themselves, WWE is still its own brand. You know what I'm saying? These wrestlers sign contracts to come and work for them. And it's just as important for you as a wrestler to protect your brand amongst being a part of another brand. And I feel sometimes these guys just don't have the balls to do that because they're afraid they're going to get fired, or obviously, right? Like there's not going to be another opportunity, or they're getting so much money right now they just could care less. Like there's a lot of things that go at the end of that, but it's unfortunate that if you do have a brand that's worth protecting, which Taz, I think he could still sell merch. Like people will buy a Taz t-shirt. I would think. A true wrestling fan, like I don't have any Taz t-shirts, but that being said, like if I saw one that was looking cool, I might be interested, right? So it's about brand protection, man. At the end of the day.
And WWE fans were left deflated when Kofi Kingston dropped his WWE title to Brock Lesnar in just 8 seconds. Kingston's reign was well received, and now Kingston was no longer champion. Fans had hoped that he would begin a new storyline which focused on him rebuilding himself to challenge Lesnar to a rematch. Bizarrely, they made the decision to book Kingston to pretend like he wasn't remotely fazed by losing the title. He would never address the loss, nor would he show any willingness to get the title back. It was an odd decision, and Kingston went from champion to being a tag team wrestler within 7 days. Being instantly moved back to the tag division was a huge fall from grace for Kingston, as it was thriving in the main event scene. It was made clear that WWE believed that Kingston had more value competing as a member of the New Day in the tag division as opposed to being a talent on the hunt for the WWE's top prize. But there you have it, folks. 10 of the quickest wrestlers.
So this was an interesting vid. I appreciate WrestleLamia. That's a pretty dope name. This was a pretty well put together list. I appreciated this guy's list. There's probably a lot more downfalls than we like to accept when you're talking about wrestling. But these are 10 pretty unique ones that were cool to talk about. Definitely Taz, you know what I'm saying? I feel like he had a mix of fatigue and just, timing. Timing is sometimes everything. And again, brand protection. Like, you're not always in the position, as much as some of these wrestlers feel they're in a position to demand, they're really not. But sometimes you are. And that's the risk you take when you give pushback. Because you don't truly know until you put that on the table and try to negotiate. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's unfortunate. Some of these guys just take, like the Kofi thing, like, I ain't saying he should just quit his job if they don't give him another run, but I'm saying you really ain't going to say nothing about, like, did you not care about the title? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't imagine any wrestler of old, like, just losing the title and not saying nothing. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, they screwed British Bulldog over for years. But he was still, like, on the mic, like, I should have had my shot. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was still, he stayed angry about that till the end. So, anyway, this was a nice little video, man. Again, I appreciate WrestleMania. Yeah. If you stay with me this long, man, I know I kind of talked a lot in this one, but hopefully you picked something up and I dropped something interesting on y'all. Go ahead, like, subscribe. We're just having fun over here. I could promote some projects to you, but I feel we've been in here long enough already, so I'm gonna spare y'all that. But stay to the end of the video because there is some stuff tagged on the end that I'd like y'all to see and check out if you can. So yes, God bless, man. You know what I'm saying? As you'll notice, the motto: keep God close. This is your host, Drone.